Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. If you're a subscriber, you've probably seen several of my pop-up shop event vlogs, or maybe you've seen my pop-up shop tips and tricks videos, or maybe you're brand new here and you're just trying to figure out where you can find a local pop-up shop vendor event to participate in. Either way, I won't keep blabbing about it any longer. Let's take a look at my recommendations for where you can find these events. So, number one. My first recommendation where I think you should start is on Facebook. And by that, I mean searching on Facebook for vendor event in your city. So for me, that would be vendor event in Atlanta, vendor event Atlanta. You can also try pop-up shop Atlanta. And what you're going to see is events, you're going to see groups, and you're going to see posts. So if you're already in some Facebook groups, you're going to see posts associated to people searching for pop-up shops. So if you're in a small business group already, especially if it's a local group, you'll see when people have been talking about pop-up shop or vendor events in the past, and you can see what people are sharing. Or you can, number two, my recommendation would be to search specifically for groups. So this would be Atlanta Craft Show Fair, looking for vendors. Let me see if I can actually find the name of one on my computer. So I just looked and it says Georgia Vendor Events is one that I've joined. I've also seen Metro Atlanta Vendor Events, venues, and vendors of Atlanta and surrounding areas in Georgia. So there's all sorts of Facebook groups that you can join. And what's great about these groups is that you're going to not only have businesses, small businesses, or vendors, you're also going to have event organizers who are looking for vendors to participate in their events. So you can look through the post and see a lot of the time you'll find an event organizer says, hey, I have a vendor event next month, I'm looking for these types of businesses, and you can see if it's a good fit for you. Or you can even post yourself and say, hey, I'm new here, I'm looking to start participating in pop-up shows or vendor events. Here's a little bit about my brand. Do you know of any that are coming up? And you'll likely get some people who can either make some recommendations about what they're going to be participating in, or you'll find an event organizer who will share information about an event they're planning. So that's one of the best ways to look for pop-up shops or vendor shows. My third option, let's say that you either stumble upon a vendor event, pop-up shop, maybe you're at a shopping center and they're doing a vendor event outdoors in the parking lot or something. I've done events like that before, so that's why I'm referring to that as an example. But, you know, I've gone to, what are they called? I'm drawing a blank on the name, but like festivals. I've gone to festivals before, last minute, and at festivals, you'll find several vendors who are trying to sell their products. Either way, whenever you stumble upon one of these, or maybe you find one on Facebook, but it's too late to sign up, they're full, you can still go and you can do two things. One, you can try to find out who the event organizer is, and you can talk to them about if they're planning a future event that you could participate in. Or what I recommend even further is to actually talk to the vendors and try to network with the vendors. So you can go up to their booth and one, make sure that they don't have a customer in their booth shopping currently, because the last thing you want to do is keep them from making a sale with your chit chat. But if their booth is empty, you can go up to them, ask them about their products, introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about yourself and your business, and just simply ask them if they have any upcoming vendor events that they're going to be participating in over the next 6 months, if they would be willing to share what events they're doing. And in my experience, you might be worried that the vendor is not going to be friendly, especially if you're wasting their time. But I will say, in my experience, when I've done this, they're always more than happy to help. I've never had anyone turn their nose up at me when I've tried to network with fellow vendors. And usually they're going to be able to recommend and tell you about their favorite events. And once you start to build a relationship, they'll tell you more information. Like, I'm actually in a group chat with 10 plus vendors right now who basically we've done several local events over time together, and we were able to build a friendship. And now, whenever we see an event coming up, whether we find it on Facebook or somewhere else, we can share the event in the group chat that we have and say, hey, has anyone done this event before? If so, how are sales? And depending on what industry they're in, because I'm in this type of group chat with vendors across multiple industries, so I'm in this group chat with people that sell everything from pie to swimsuits to clothing apparel to sunglasses to jewelry, all sorts of things. So it's not, you don't have to look for vendors that are selling exactly what you sell. But either way, I'll say, hey, who's doing this event? And then people can chime in and say, oh, I signed up for that. And then you're like, great, I can't wait to see you there. And you just build this friendship. And I've had vendors share with me, oh, I joined or I participated in that event last year and sales were horrible. I wouldn't recommend. And then it's often smart to kind of probe further, because sometimes it has to do with the type of product they're selling. Maybe it's just not a fit for that audience, or maybe it's because it rained that day, or maybe they have a similar business to you and it's actually a good sign to avoid it. If they did not do well, you probably won't do well there either. So networking, I feel like I'm not the first person to kind of preach at you about networking, but seriously, in the pop-up event world, networking can go such a long way, because I've avoided vendor events that I've heard from my friends they've done poorly at. I've avoided those events, so then I don't have to spend the money and worry about whether I'm going to make my money back on that event and then be disappointed with sales. And in addition to that, they always share with me if they have any events coming up, and that way if I wasn't aware of that event, I can potentially sign up as well. So it's a great way to learn about events and build that relationship. And you can take that as far as you want. You can provide tips and tricks with your fellow vendors. You can have, coffee sessions where you guys brainstorm together. I mean, you can take that as far as you want. My fourth tip is to plan your own pop-up shop. So what you can do is look at a website like peerspace.com, where you can search for fun, creative spaces that are available to rent in your area. And I will tell you, in Atlanta, there's a lot of awesome venues that you can rent for relatively cheap. And what you can do is invite all of your local customers to come to your shop in person, assuming that you are online only. And you can have this special little event. You can try to get other vendors to join and collaborate with you and build it or bring in a bigger audience group. I've talked about that with my network, my group chat of vendors. We've talked about the idea of all planning a pop-up shop together on our own. We haven't done it yet, but we have discussed the idea for the future. And what you can do is, one, like I mentioned, invite all of your customers, invite the other vendors' customers, but you can also try to include or invite either an influencer or like a micro-influencer who has a similar target audience to your customer base. And you can either invite them, if they're small enough, they might just come on their own, because it's an event where they can take pictures and good for creating content for them. Or you could offer them free products, or you could actually pay them, especially if they're a larger influencer. You can pay them to come out to your event, and you can take pictures with them. You can ask them to model your products if that's something that you guys can agree to in advance. And what they can do is try to invite their own follower base, so that way you have even more people coming, and you can make the event free. You could sell tickets. You can take this idea in so many different directions. Let me know if you guys would be interested in learning more about this type of event, and especially if I do end up planning my own pop-up with my network of vendors, I can create a video that talks more about that. Okay, and then my last tip, it's not really a way for you to find events, but more for your awareness. So when I participate in a lot of vendor events or pop-up shows, I often end up getting reached out to by other event organizers of other events that I didn't even know about or know they existed, because what happens is they're planning an event, they're looking for vendors to come participate, and what they often do is they'll know of another pop-up event that you participated in, and they'll find that information on the website and they'll look up all the vendors and they'll invite those vendors to participate in their event. So just awareness, the more vendor events you do, the more likely you're going to find more, because people are going to start reaching out to you. So that's it. Those are all my tips. Let me know if you guys have any specific questions, or if there's anything that you want me to create a video on talking more about in the future. I've got lots of experience from all these pop-up events and I'd love to share. So with that, you better make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with all of my vendor event information that I'm, like I said, happy to share. And make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time.